And then when I was going through this, that's what led to the book. Right. Because people have said to me, what, not what's special about you, but what was special in you, or what luck did you have to achieve what you achieved, and why didn't you crumble completely? And when I started writing the book, it was really about the life experiences I've had that gave me a skill that then was used during this time. And I realised my whole life was a training programme for the fight of my life, which came last summer.
Interesting that. So there's a sort of feeling of a kind of destiny about it, actually, that you're going to have to face up to something, you know, and actually show your mettle.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, the book is called, as I said, Lessons in Courage. I mean, that's quite a heavy title to bear. Yeah. And I think there are 10 lessons, are there not, in it? 10 lessons. Are these lessons that you learnt, or are they ones, or are you saying this is what you should do to the reader?
It's more of these lessons I learnt in my life, and when I was at my lowest point, I needed internal reserves. I realised I had them because of those lessons I'd already learnt.
Right.
Hence why we've got 10 lessons in the book. I didn't want the book to be preachy. I have got no right and no experience to tell somebody else how they should gain courage, what they should do in their situation, because who am I? What I wanted was to give them examples of how you can overcome based on your own experiences, because people may have had different lessons in their life and they need to use the learning from their lessons.
Do you think, though, that when you're writing a book, did you think to yourself, I'm writing this for people who are actually already courageous, or do you think they are no longer courageous?
I wrote the book not to make people courageous. I wrote the book so people could see when they were being cowards. I want people to avoid cowardice. There's a difference between being courageous and avoiding cowardice. So being courageous is, this is the right thing to do. I'm going to do it, and I don't care what happens to me because this is the right thing to do. That's courageous. Avoiding cowardice is, I'm not going to go along with that, and I'm going to not do it and not tell anybody I'm not doing it because it's the right thing to do. So it's a lot more subdued. And if we can start with the baby steps, which is how to avoid cowardice, courage will come later on.
It's a very difficult, tough one, though, isn't it, Nick? I mean, avoiding cowardice. For most people, what would that mean? So, for example, if they don't want to do, for example, unconscious bias training at work, does that mean, therefore, that they are cowardly for going along with it and attending?
Not necessarily, not if your job's on the line, because what I don't want is martyrs. I don't want people losing their job over a silly training course. That helps nobody. But it's about when your boss says to you, hi everybody, we've got voluntary training coming up this Friday on white fragility or unconscious bias training, and it's voluntary, and you go, no, thank you. Say no, thank you, and don't do it. Don't feel you have to do it even though it's voluntary. And let's say your boss then turns around the next week and says, it's now compulsory, and it's a week on Thursday. Well, how about thinking a week on Thursday you're phoning sick, and you may lose a day's pay. But you know, when you're fighting, you have to take some of these punches yourself, and losing a day's pay will help you feel not so much of a coward. And then maybe the next week they say, right, so many people cancelled it last week, we're running it again, and this time you all better turn up. Well, that's the time you do turn up, because you don't want to lose your job. But the fact you've spoke out against it, and the fact you didn't turn up and said you were sick, other people have noticed that. That then starts giving them a little bit of courage that I'm not the only one who thinks this is all rubbish and lunacy. And you can get courage by hearing other people do things and say things. And the more you do that, the more courage you will develop within yourself. And what we need to get away from is the silent majority being so silent, and people sitting back and saying to themselves, I don't like any of this, but I don't want to do anything about it in case I'm damaged. I'll let other people fight these battles. Now that's cowardice.
I think you make, please do correct me, but I think that you do say what has happened to Britain, that we have become cowardly. Yes. And is that just something that you've observed over the past few years, or do you think we've been that way for a long time?
I think it's been getting worse over decades. And I don't mean every individual in the country is a coward. I'm talking about our organisations. I'm talking about our politicians. I'm talking about our governments. When was the last time, apart from the vaccine that we created, which we didn't create, it was private industry created the vaccine. But apart from that, what other big problems have we solved in my lifetime? I can't think of any. We have open borders. We can't stop boats coming across the English Channel. We can't stop young men stabbing each other to death in record numbers in London. There's so many problems that we can't seem to solve anything anymore. And it's not because we're stupid, and it's not because we don't have money to solve these problems, because to solve complicated problems takes courage, because you're going to upset people, you're going to uptip the apple cart. And politicians and people in organisations, it's easy to say, I want a quieter life. I don't want to risk my pension and my job. It was already broken when I turned up. So why should I be the one sticking my neck above the parapet to fix these problems when they were already here when I turned up? We need less politicians. We need more statespeople.
Yes.
People who do the right thing for the right reasons and don't care about the effect personally and politically on them because they know it's the right thing to do.